chapter here in Washington State, and the chapter here is led by Alex. I don't know how to say. She told me 10 minutes ago, and it's already gone. So I'll do the Joe Biden on that one. Alex has been working hand in hand with me on these bills since they were dropped in January, and she has been here to the Capitol to testify against them. She has been making noise. I guess she's TikTok famous or something. Awesome. So please give a round of applause and welcome my dear friend Alex.
Thank you for that welcome. Thank you all for being here, first and foremost. Our primary threat to our children is from the internet. It is from social media. It is from things like YouTube Kids that deliberately use things like an algorithm to push LGBTQIA+, I don't even know how many more letters there are now, onto our children behind your backs because you think it's child-friendly entertainment. It is not child-friendly entertainment.
Thank you.
You cannot trust anything and give it to your kids. You have to screen all of it. Every single thing. And I know it's hard. I have 3 kids myself. It is a pain in the butt. Now, the other thing that we didn't used to deal with is social emotional learning in schools. Sounds like you guys know what that is. Good. They're now asking deeply personal questions of your children in classrooms. This is deeply inappropriate, makes our children uncomfortable, and based on their answers, they then tailor the new education to them. It is weakening our children's education, and it is indoctrinating them into the ideas like boys can be girls and girls can be boys. This is false. They cannot do that.
Boys aren't girls.
Now, this is not about hate. Don't hate anybody. This is not anti-trans. This is about the fact that children cannot make irreversible decisions on their own. We don't let them smoke. We don't let them get tattoos. We don't let them drive until they have proven that they can do so safely. And yet we are letting them decide life-altering decisions at the age of 12. This is insane. Absolutely insane. Now, I want to impart to you the importance of speech on this issue. People like them will tell you that simply saying these things is violence. That is not true. Just because I disagree with you, and I'm sure there are people in this audience that I disagree with right now, that does not mean that you have committed violence against me. What they are doing is they are setting up a scenario in which, when you disagree, they then think that that gives them the right to defend themselves by attacking you with physical violence.
Amen.
That is not appropriate. That is not how we behave in a civil society. What schools are pushing in the name of inclusivity is disingenuous. It is not inclusive to tell children that they belong in different categories. You need to let your children be children. You need to let them live the way they're going to live without trying to label them. Any adult who tells your child that they are of the opposite gender or inquires about their sexual interests when they shouldn't have them yet is disgusting. There is no way to talk about these topics in a child-friendly way. They are complicated for adults. We could sit here for hours talking about these issues, trying to find a middle ground on how to work around these issues. It's complicated for adults. The only way to discuss this with children is to oversimplify it in the most gross context. When you tell a child that they can just change their gender by just saying that they are, you are teaching them that reality doesn't exist. Nothing is more fundamentally harmful for a child than taking away their ability to conceptualize the world. They need to be able to order the world in order to just understand it. When you take that away, they're confused. And that confusion leads to anxiety and depression, rates of suicide. We've seen it all. Children need standards. Even myself, who knew I was gay in high school, I understood that this word didn't exist, but heteronormative is the standard. Anyone who tells you differently is lying to themselves. And that's not bad. I don't need to see women kissing women and men kissing men in movies in order for me to know that I am gay. I don't mind seeing it, but I don't need it to know who I am. And the lie that we need to tell your children, we need to show your children what sex is, we need to show them what gay sex is so that they're inclusive, that's a lie. They can figure this out on their own. There are whole generations of gay people and transgendered individuals who figured it out without all of this garbage. And that is still true. So now I want to talk about the myths around gender-affirming care. Nothing could be a more disgusting euphemism than gender-affirming care. First of all, it is not care. It is experimental at best. So one of the things that they say is that this prevents suicide. That is a dubious claim at best, and the data isn't there to support it. If you look at historical suicide records, you will see that there is no spike in child suicide. They have been relatively stable all through history until now, when we are supposedly in the most inclusive, understanding, sensitive time in our lifetime. Child suicide rates are the highest they have ever been. The data does not support their claim that if you do not affirm your child, if you do not allow them to take puberty blockers, that if you don't allow them to access hormone replacement therapy, and if you don't allow them to mutilate themselves with surgery, that they will kill themselves. That is not true. Your child might be suicidal. That is a separate issue, and one that you should take very seriously. But it is not answered by permanent alterations to their body. The other myth that they say all the time, and has now been debunked by even the medical professionals who advocate for this, is that these things are safe and reversible. Puberty blockers are not safe or reversible. There are multiple issues with puberty blockers. One of the most well-known is bone loss, severe and detrimental bone loss, at a higher rate than osteoporosis. That is a horrible thing to do to a child. It is unconscionable. She is correct. Pulmonary embolism is another side effect of some of these medications. Now, one of the less known things is that if you are of an age where you have not yet achieved sexual function, and there are children in the audience, so I will try to be vague, then you will not achieve it if you've been on puberty blockers. That is around 80 to 90%. And children who have gone on it any younger than 10 have not had any sexual function. Jazz Jennings is an example of this, where if you have not had sexual function before you get on these medications, you likely never will have it. That is so egregiously horrible that I can't believe that the people that advocate for sex positivity would support this. It is egregious what they are doing to our children. It is egregious that they are lying to you the way that they are. And it is even worse that the medical community is being as obtuse as they are. They hide the facts from you. They distort the statistics. And they lie about how likely it is that you will face complications from these procedures. They leave it to parents to dig for themselves where they should be upfront with you to begin with. For example, Seattle Children's Gender Clinic performs surgery on minors. It says this on their website, and they do everything they can to try to mitigate what they mean by this. What they mean is that in the youngest case they have had is a 15-year-old deciding to cut off her breasts. That is unconscionable as a medical professional that you would do this. Now, they like to say that there are things like cancer patients. They cut off their breasts. What I would like to say is, how dare you conflate cancer with a completely healthy child? Secondly, you make it easier for children who have no medical necessity to cut off their body parts than if I were to go to a medical professional and say that I want my uterus removed. They wouldn't do it. They would not do it. They would make me take all kinds of tests. They would ask me if I was sure, do you not want to have children, blah, 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 blah. But if I told them tomorrow that I am actually a man and I would actually like to have that removed to affirm myself, they would schedule it right away.
100%! They would do it 100%!
Now, we all here know about the industrial medical complex. There's a lot of trouble in our society around accessing medication that is expensive. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about how expensive it is to achieve gender-affirming care. So for vaginoplasties, that is for men or boys to have a neo-vagina, you're looking at $4 to $12 grand per procedure. And that is on top of $1,200 per month for puberty blockers, or about $1,500 per year for hormone replacement therapy. You add all that up, and that's not even including the complications of multiple surgeries. Now, phalloplasty for girls, which is where they create a fake penis, that's $20 to $100,000 per procedure. Now, I'd like to let you know that of all categories, the most egregious jump in people who are identifying as trans, rapid onset gender dysphoria is what they're calling it. I like to call it social invasion. What they're doing, that category, is girls. There are more girls. The way they look at your children is money. They want to make your kids lifelong medical patients so that they can rake in the dollars.
Yep.
Do not let them do this. It is egregious. Not only will you pay the price, but eventually your child will pay that price for the rest of their lives. And if you didn't know, you are already paying for this in Washington. The Trans Health Program, which is Medicaid in Washington, is freely available to anyone who applies for it under Apple Care. You are already paying for this. Now I want to talk about the reason we're here today, which is to oppose Senate Bill 5599. Some of you might have heard my testimony, might have heard some of my videos talking about this bill, so I'm going to try not to be repetitive. Our biggest objections for Gays Against Groomers are a couple of points. One of the first things this bill says is that any person can harbor a minor who runs away from home if they are seeking gender-affirming care. Why would the federal government, or would the state government, care so little about who is watching your children? They don't care about your kids. If they don't have a standard for who is allowed to harbor them, then they cannot care about children. Any pedophile, any sex offender, any abuser, anybody can harbor your children, and they will not background check these people. All they have to do is report that they have them. I guarantee you they will not check on that person. They will applaud them for their public service.
They already said they wouldn't check on them. They
Now,
already told us that.
there is also no time restriction. Puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapies need to be continually administered. So if your child is seeking gender-affirming care in order to receive these things, then there is no time limit. They can stay at a youth shelter. They can stay with, hopefully, a friend or someone you know who actually isn't going to abuse them. But anyway, they could go anywhere to receive this, and it's indefinite. You could, theoretically, see your kid one day and then not see them again until they're 18. That could happen.
If
And they made no attempt in the multiple times that they edited this bill to change it in any way. There was no attempt at family reconciliation counseling or reunification. That was an amendment that Jim Walsh proposed for this bill. They shot it down point blank. If your concern is the safety of children, why would you object to more therapy? Honest question. To those of you who might not know, an example of how this is going to go has already occurred. In the state of Virginia, a girl ran away from home because she thought that she was trans. And she thought that she was going to go meet a 14-year-old at the skate park. Unfortunately for her, that was a 25-year-old pedophile who abducted her and took her across state lines and sexually assaulted her multiple times. It took Texas getting involved when she turned up there before she was finally returned to her parents. In response to this, Virginia is now sponsoring what is called Sage's Law, and it is to allow parents to be kept in the loop on all things regarding child transition, to prevent these types of events from happening. SB 5599 is going to allow these things by law. Who cares if they eventually punish someone who has assaulted a child? The assault's already happened. And this law encourages it. This law, pedophiles are not stupid. They are predators. They know how to exploit the weaknesses that are in our system. They go where children are. That is why you see abuse happen in churches. That is why you see abuse happen in the Boy Scouts. That is why you see abuse happen in schools. It's not because these institutions are inherently bad. It is because that's where children are. These are the institutions we trust. My answer to you as parents is stop trusting anyone. Now to talk about HB 1469, which is the companion bill to this bill.
Alex has worked so hard on this issue, and I appreciate so much her being in this fight, and her voice is so important in this fight.